Welcome. Today we've got with us Mala Kennedy. She is a mindset coach, and she's going to talk to us today about why mindset is so important in business, and also some common mindset issues that people encounter, and what you can do to change that so that your business and your life are absolutely fulfilling and exactly what you, well, maybe not exactly, but hopefully what you dreamed that they would be. So I'm Angie Beeman. I'll be hosting today, and I'm with Clutch Businesses, and I want to welcome to the show Mala Kennedy. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I'm really
Oh,
happy to be here.
yeah, we're pumped to have you. I'm actually so excited about this conversation. And I guess before we get started, do you want to share with us a little bit about your background and the work that you do?
Sure, I will definitely. I guess it really starts like my journey into mindset coaching and stuff was a really long kind of evolution. And it really started because I'm a mindset coach and EFT practitioner. But it started with my journey to self love, and that's what gave me the confidence to show up in my business. And for me, it was a really interesting kind of journey. I was adopted from Sri Lanka, and so I grew up kind of caught between two worlds. I didn't really feel like I fit into my like adopted family. As much as I love them so much, and I like have a great connection with them, but just I was a brown girl, and they were with all white Australians, and then I had my Sri Lankan family who I had no connection to. So I didn't really. There was something missing for me, and I always had this journey to belonging. Um, and then I kind of just was like not loving my skin, not loving who I was at all as I grew up. And eventually I experienced vitiligo on my skin, which is where you lose the pigmentation in your skin. And that was like a big awakening for me. But I kind of was just a tiny bit, so I didn't really address it or address the deep feelings of not loving my skin, I guess. And so then I was pregnant with my son, and I had him, and it really accelerated, and I ended up with postnatal depression. And so I had to like face it, and I had to go into this deep journey of like self-love. And it was from there that doing all this using these tools and all this stuff to become happy again and to find myself and to connect to my skin and love my skin, like literally love it. Um, and that was when I got the confidence to start my business. And I had been studying coaching. I'd had a coach for years. I remember my first coach was in like 2011 or 12, and I loved the work that they did. Like she just helped me so much, and I was like, "That's what I want to do." I knew there was something that I wanted to do, but I didn't. It wasn't a thing. And then I started studying it like a few years later, and I really drew it out for a really long period of time. And just I didn't have that confidence, and it was um really working on my mindset and doing all that stuff that got me to show up and finally have the confidence to step into my business. And I'm really passionate about working with mamas, especially because that was my journey to confidence, and that's how I showed up. And now I just want to be able to help mums support themselves and show up for themselves and build a business and a life that they really love. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredibly powerful. And what a beautiful mindset journey in and of itself, right?
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, it really was. And it was really like constantly going in and out and building on it and conditioning myself. I'm a massive believer in slow and steady and tiny commitments to yourself, and like building the muscle. Like when you exercise, you don't just go and run a marathon. You build up to it, and like, you know, self actualization, all that stuff. I really believe there's steps, and you start at like the self acceptance. You have to jump to self acceptance if you're lower than that, and then get to self love. Like you don't just jump all into the top. You step up and you do it consistently and commit to yourself and keep recommitting. And that's how I really approach it all the time. Yeah, and with my
Yeah.
clients.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, I know that this is a little outside of what we wanted to talk about, but I think that that's such an important reminder because I think it's easy for us to get off track and maybe what becomes a slow process is really us believing that we've already gotten there, and
Mm.
and not checking in to say, okay, well, not checking in to see that, okay, I've gotten a little bit, I've gotten a little bit better. Things feel better, things feel more aligned, and I've still got work to do. It's, I
Mm.
think we kind of trick ourselves, and because we want to be to that finish line, right?
Yeah, and every little success, every little milestone that you build on. Say like I even do it with meditating and running and stuff. Like you start with 5 minutes and you might build up by a minute, and then eventually, before you know it, you're doing like 30 minutes and it feels easy, and then you feel successful because you've suddenly look back and reflect on how far you've come, and that builds your confidence because you've had success at doing these little things and sustaining them and growing them. So it's been really key part of things for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool.
Mhm.
Well, do you want
Yeah.
to tell us? I guess I'm curious. Mindset seems to be kind of, it seems like people are talking about it a lot right now. And it seems like something that they hadn't been talking about for, I guess up until like the last 5 to 10 years. Is it that we're just using a different word to describe the same thing that people have been talking about? Or is there another reason why mindset is becoming such a prominent conversation in business?
I think I mean, I feel like there's always been some level of it underlying, but I think for to me, I really notice that now it is really strong, and I think that really comes with like aligning to focusing on our wellness and focusing on how we're like both sides, like taking care of our well-being and how that links to our business. And I really work in like a language, emotions and body, and the three of those together, and I think they're really really key. um and I just yeah, I think there's definitely a big connection between looking at our emotions and how we're feeling and stuff, and people are accepting that side of things a lot more now.
Mhm.
um in business, like to have well-being things at work or in corporate and that kind of thing is like a really recent evolution. And so as that's opened up, I think the mindset things become more accepted and more allowed into the space and more present. So I personally believe there's definitely a real connection between those two things, if
Mhm.
that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, we're finally given like an inch of permission to be emotional in business, or to recognize that there are emotions in business. We're not just robots, right?
Mm. And people relate to the humanness, they relate to our stories. And now, with the digital age where we're online and doing so much online, and now, especially in the last year, even more so,
Mhm.
we're showing our vulnerabilities, we're showing the true stuff. Like, things aren't always perfect. So, like, technology, we have technology issues, and then the real of us comes through. And so that is more allowed, and people relate to that. And it's a big driver.
Yeah, that's really interesting that you say that, because I started my business at the beginning of last year, so the beginning of 2020, and I feel like the fact that we are in this digital age and we're going through a pandemic and not able to interact in person has allowed me to be vulnerable and to mm, uh, step into my business in a way that I think would have taken me 5 to 10 years. I mean, it's weird to even put like a timeline on it, but it would have taken a long time. And so I have a confidence in my mission, in the contribution that I can make. And I think that I would have it just would have taken me a lot longer if I wouldn't have had. It sounds so weird to say, because I'm talking to a phone right now. I'm not talking to I'm not talking face to face with a person. um, so it seems weird that in kind of a disconnected place, we're able to find a rich and deep connection that maybe doesn't exist in, or is harder to find in
Mm.
one-on-one or in-person interactions.
Mm. Yeah, I totally agree. Um, and that connection thing, like I almost have never felt so connected really. And
Yeah.
I know that like for for me, that sense of belonging. Everyone wants to belong. Everyone wants that connection. And like, if you think about the corporate way of things that was so professional and stiff and rigid and like separate, it doesn't evoke that sense of belonging and that sense of connection. And that's what people crave, and especially now, people need it so much. So looking for the relatability and the stories that are just like them, people just like each other, so we can be together. It is the future.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. Okay, so now we're given permission to acknowledge the emotion in business and in our careers. Why is mindset so important in business, or why is that acknowledgement of emotion so important in business?
I feel it really is 90, like, most of our success comes from our mindset. I mean, I love systems and I love strategies and all those things are really amazing and beneficial and supportive. But if we don't have the belief in ourselves that we can show up, we're not going to show up. And that's where procrastination comes in. I used to be the biggest procrastinator. I was so shocking. But it was because of the doubt I had in myself. And so that procrastination, playing small, not getting out of our comfort zone, we need our strong mindset to do that, to connect, to talk to new people, to go on podcasts, to do all the different things that we're doing. you know it is not necessarily comfortable.
Yeah,
So I think mindset is so crucial. It's so um pivotal. And you hear people who don't have a lot of systems and structure, but they have a really strong mindset, and they just know that they can do it, and they do it. And that's I really believe in that.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, some of the most amazing businesses. I mean, I hate to say this in some ways because it's, the business that I'm committed to, that I'm dedicated to systems and processes. But I think a lot of businesses have been so crazy successful because they haven't focused on that, and they've only
Mm.
focused on, I know I've got something awesome to give. I know that I can give it, and off we go, and we'll fix everything in a little while when it all starts to unravel. But for right now, this is working, so I'm just going to keep going.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you're gonna get a lot of no's in business. There's not always gonna be yeses and agreements and things going your way. So the people with the really strong mindsets just keep going. They keep showing up, and the no's don't stop them. Like,
Mhm.
if I don't know if you've heard, like, people say go for no's a lot in MLM, and I'm not in MLM, but it's the mindset there. It's just showing up
Mhm.
consistently and keep just knowing what they can do and not letting anything stop that. It's just keep going, keep going, keep going. And I think persistence and determination are everything.
Mhm.
And if you keep going and you are persistent and you are determined, you will succeed.
Yeah.
It's inevitable. Your success is inevitable
Mhm.
if you keep going and you don't quit.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are some common ways that people prevent themselves from continuing on, or I guess some common mindset challenges that people have?
Oh, you know, language, the self-talk thing is a huge
Mm.
one. Just um the things that we say to ourselves. Like, I used to always say I wasn't good enough and doubt myself and say I could never do that. And it can be sly. It can be sneaky little things like, oh, look at that person running. They're so silly. Like, making a dig at someone because you doubt yourself, and that
Mhm.
is implanted in our subconscious, and our subconscious mind is so powerful. We spend 95% of our time there. And I think there was a study recently with our thoughts. We have about 6,200 thoughts a day, which
Wow.
is staggering.
Mhm.
And our thoughts, so what we're saying to us, our thoughts really, really matter. um our language is a predisposition for action. That's my mentor Alan used to always tell me this. And it really is what we speak, we do create. And it's not just in the like manifesting way. It's really in our nervous system that we're carrying this. So our language is linked to our emotions, which is linked to our body. So if we're saying to ourselves, "Oh, I'm not good enough. I could never be good enough to start a business," and we say that often enough, it's going to become a belief. Then when it comes a belief, we start to carry that in our emotions, and we might live in a mood of something like resignation, which is like a closed off to possibilities. It's a mood where you're heavy and you don't see any way out. It's just that's it. So you give up. And then you carry that in your body, and so you may be really hunched, or you know and you're storing that in your nervous system. So your language is so important, and just shifting your language, reframing your thoughts can really, really make a huge difference to everything. You start there, and then you can connect it to your emotions in your body and work from that space. It's really, really crucial. Um, and and the thing is, with the subconscious, like, think it's so deeply rooted. So I do EFT, which is emotional freedom technique called tapping. Um, and that's like a mind body tool, and it clears emotional physical blocks with the meridian points, just by tapping like this on different meridian points. Um, I don't know if you've used it before.
I have actually, yeah. And I actually used to be a Thai massage therapist, so I've worked a lot with the meridians in a different way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've done EFT actually only one time, but it was really powerful.
Oh, yeah. It's
Yeah.
it's massively powerful. And um I actually have a really cool I think it's a really cool story about how EFT and changing my subconscious, like, really changed things in my life. And a quick, like, rundown of that for those who don't know about EFT and how this works, if you don't mind. But,
Yeah.
yeah, so we have our emotions and our past experiences, and when, like, first of all, we have our flight, freeze response, and so that's was great for primitive man when there were lions and tigers around and all that kind of thing. But we automatically trigger that all the time, like constantly. Whenever something happens that's a stressor, we trigger it. So it can be really detrimental. And then we can have these experiences every time we have one of these experiences where our heart rate goes up and adrenaline starts to pump and all that kind of thing. Um, we're creating this kind of event that it could be traumatic or a negative kind of event that stores in our subconscious. And then if you like imagine kind of filing cabinet, I like to use the filing cabinet analogy because it just visual for me. But you have all these pieces of paper in it, um, and they're like our emotions and our experiences and stuff. And so if we do have these and we don't clear them out somehow, you can get really stagnant and stuck. So we eat and we drink, and we release it. But with these emotions and experiences, we can stuff them all down, and then we can put another one on top, another one on top, and just stack it on up, and we don't release it, and it just gets really stuck and just stagnant and gross and, like, painful for us. And so with this filing cabinet, this is how tapping works. It will work on the pieces of paper, and it will release a piece of paper, and then it may reveal something else that you can work on, or it will clear it, and it will be great. But there's always more. So there's always good. It will open up a new insight or a new possibility once you clear this. And I had this experience. So I always I was wrongly told that we just had one that was our biological response: fight, flight, or freeze. And then my mentor in tapping advised me, no, you should go between the two. Sometimes you might fight, sometimes you might run, sometimes you might freeze. It's like, oh, that's weird. Well, because I always freeze. And I remember freezing, like my baby would choke and my partner would be there and I'd freeze. And one
Yeah.
time I was in California and I was on this jetty and there was massive seagulls and one like flew over my head, and like I knew what was going to happen and I froze and it just like dropped one on me, and I didn't
Mala, I'm going to stop you. I think your mic is off. Did it maybe come?
Oh,
There we go. Okay.
Was it off for long?
No, just for like a minute. Well, maybe not even a minute, like a couple of seconds. But I think we lost you. The seagulls were coming, and
Yeah. So that happened, and then I was with this guy friend of mine, and so I had this freeze response, and I thought, okay, that must just be my response. Then I remembered being mugged by a woman, and I'd chased her. So years before, but I kind of had put that aside and thought, oh no, I just freeze all the time. And my mentor and I, we had a one tapping session, and we tapped on it for an hour. And
wow.
what had came up was that I had this trauma with men, which had caused me to freeze in situations where a man was present.
Oh,
So we tapped on it.
interesting.
So we tapped on it for an hour, and then obviously to like shift it and released it, and I didn't know what was going to happen. And obviously I didn't want my baby to like choke on her food or anything, because that's obviously I didn't want that to happen. It's terrible, but I didn't know what would happen. And then about 2 weeks later, I was home and my partner was there, and she choked on her food, and I jumped right in. And I'd
Wow.
never done that. Like, it was a completely different reaction.
Yeah.
Um, so it's just the subconscious, changing that, working on that stuff can be so powerful for mindset. It can really change things and really shift things and open you up to new ways of being and new possibilities. So yeah.
Wow. That's incredible. And such amazing insight, right? I mean, we're not fixed. We're changeable.
Yeah.
Is EFT or tapping, is that one of the tools? So if you find yourself kind of stuck in this place, or stuck in this kind of recurring theme, recurring thought, is EFT one of the ways that you can break free of that you recommend to people that you work with?
Definitely. I think it's really good to just tap at the end of your day, every day, and just talk about your day and tap and clear it out, because that can be a really great way to shift it and release anything that's happened straight away. But
Yeah.
yeah, if you have doubts, if it's about money or your business or showing up, maybe you want to do a live video and really nervous. Yes, tapping is so great for that. It's really, really powerful for your mindset shifts, and I've experienced that very profoundly. So it's one of the things that I did as well when I had postnatal depression. I meditated a lot, and I love meditation as well. That's something else that I think is just really good, to get you grounded and centered. Um, and so, yeah, meditation and tapping are what I did when I had postnatal depression a lot. And just really noticing your thoughts and noticing the words and the language that you're using, because our language it really matters for our mindset. So if you can catch the words that you're using, and if you're saying things like I can't afford this, or you know I can't start a business, change your language. Maybe saying I'm choosing not to do this right now.
Mhm.
Little shifts like that. I think language is a big one as well, because that can then change your emotions in your body too. And of course, I think working physically in your body can do things too. But I think they're all great tools.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think it's helpful too that you gave some other examples of this negative self-talk, because I think for years I kind of convinced myself that I wasn't I didn't, it's not that I didn't think that I had mindset issues, but I didn't think that I was a negative self-talker, because I think a lot of times people say, if you find yourself saying I'm not good enough, like that's kind of the go-to like negative self-talk example. And I didn't find myself saying I'm not good enough, but there were like a ton of other ways that I was convincing myself that I couldn't do something, or that wasn't for me, or whatever it was whatever it was that was holding me back, right? And so you've given some other great examples of I can't afford that, or I can't start a business right now, or whatever it is, I can't call that person, I can't reach out to that person. Those are all really active and really they're big ways that we hold ourselves back.
Yeah, absolutely. And it can be really weaved into things that we don't really notice, so that we don't think that there's an issue there. For me, another thing was procrastinating, not following through, not finishing things,
Yeah.
and not thinking it would, and thinking that was just I just wasn't that motivated, but really it was doubt. Because as soon as I cleared that and
Right.
shifted that and worked on that, I started showing up a lot and not procrastinating and getting things done. And
Hmm.
I've had clients who wanted to host a retreat overseas, and it was just that block to. It was such a big thing to do, and it just kind of it seemed too big,
Yeah.
you know. So it was shifting that and then breaking it down again, going back to the like tiny steps, which I love. And that mindset shift to what is possible. How could we make this work?
Yeah.
And then it did, and it was a huge success. So I think it's it's not just that I'm not good enough thing. That's just one example. It can come in so many forms, in so
Hmm.
many sneaky ways. So I love that you mentioned that too.
Yeah. So is that a good way to? So I mean, in the example that you gave, you mentioned that basically it was something that they really wanted to do, but they didn't think that they could do it. It seemed too big. Is that kind of like a ding 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 ding? We've got a mindset thing that we have to work on. If it's something that you feel driven to, it's something that you desire, but you're not able, or you don't think that you're able to accomplish that. Is that kind of the red flag?
Definitely,
Okay.
I think it definitely is, because it's meant for us. If we can dream it, we can find a way to create something and do it and work towards it. And it may end up looking completely different, but I think you have this big idea and you have this goal, and then maybe it's a huge goal. So maybe the mindset, like, action is to do one tiny step towards that. And so I'm really into doing things that are so small they're almost ridiculous,
Yeah.
because then you're like, oh, that was easy. So what can I do
Hmm.
next? And then that was easy. And then before you know it, you've done this whole like project because it
Yeah.
was easy. Um, and it's tricking. I'm really into tricking my mind and
Yeah.
conditioning it and building up like the
Yeah.
muscle that I kind of mentioned before. So yeah, but that's definitely a sign. If people don't see what's possible for them, shifting their language, shifting them to see what is possible so that they can do it.
Hmm. Yeah, that's great. So, okay, so if we identify, and, I know that you've talked about like recognizing it in your body too, right? So there's the noticing your thoughts. It seems like there's noticing your body. Those are all ways of recognizing that there's an issue. And then, or not necessarily an issue, but that you're up against something, right? Um, and so we've got EFT, we've got tapping, we've got changing language. What else? What else have we talked about as ways, or what else have you given us so far that
Yeah, changing your language, changing your emotions, your body, tapping, meditation,
meditation?
little sustainable habits. Um, yeah, looking at where you're maybe not being consistent, or I don't know if I touched on this, but I think looking at where you're not being consistent, or what you're turning to like put a band-aid over something. Maybe you're
Mhm.
watching heaps of Netflix, or maybe you're drinking too much alcohol. All these things, they could be indicators of some things that maybe you get to look at around your mindset for something. You might be avoiding something.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. That's really good. That's really good.
Mm.
And I also really like I mean, I love this taking small steps. And I love the idea of that because I think it teaches us. So I was just having this conversation actually with my partner that there's something that you get from acting a certain way, right? Or there's a benefit that you think that you're getting from showing up in a certain way that maybe you don't really want to, right? Like if you really sat down and thought about it, that's not really how you want to show up, but you are, and you're doing that because you think that you're getting something from it. Like there's
Mm.
there's a reason that you're doing it, So I love the small steps, making just incremental changes, because it starts to convince you, or show you, kind of reveal to you that the benefit that you think you're getting. I mean, obviously you're getting it, right? But that's not really the benefit that you want. And so
Mm.
you start to see how kind of shifting courses really gives you what you're looking for, instead of what you were doing before.
Totally, I love that because there is a payoff. There's something that it's
Mhm.
some way that this thing is like protecting you, keeping you safe, and like you want that payoff. So
Totally.
yeah, I totally agree. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, staying safe is a big one, right? I see that in myself all the time. Staying safe feels
Mm.
so good.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not the way. It's not the answer. Um
No, there's so much. It feels good. It feels safe. It feels comfortable. Then when you start taking those little leaps and those little risks, and it can feel scary and stuff, but there's so much reward on the other side, and it's so much better than that payoff,
yeah.
in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. True, true, true. I love this.
Yeah,
This is so helpful.
yeah.
Um, is there anything, so, I think this is obviously everything that you've given us, everything that you've shared today is so beneficial for really anybody listening, right? Like this could show up in business, this could show up in your career, this could show up in your personal life, in your like every interaction that exists with
Mm.
yourself and with others. This is always there, right?
And with so many people starting businesses and or wanting to and that kind of thing, it's it's so interlinked. It's not separate. The work that I do
Yes.
really does apply to business and your personal life, and nowadays in the online space it's not separate. It's an
Right.
extension of you. So your business is an extension of you, and yeah, it's just so connected.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Well, I guess along those lines, how can people find you if they're interested in finding out more about what you do, or they're interested in working with you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram. I my Instagram is Mindset for Women, and then I have actually created this really amazing habits builder for women. Oh yeah, it's for everyone, but it's a habits builder that helps you build those incremental habits up, and you can get that. I've had issues with my website
Yeah.
marlaloves.co, so it's in a rebuild. There's been all these things, but the habits builder is on my like temporary website, which is marlaloves.com.au.
Okay.
And then it's right up the top there, but it will be made. It's easy to get
Okay.
connect
So the
through,
one
and then
I've
I
got
have
up on
group.
the screen, they'll get an option to redirect to that site. Is that
Yeah, it does
okay?
have a
Okay.
redirect, and that one will be live
Okay.
hopefully this week.
Good.
It's just been a bit of a hiccup, but yeah. And then I have my group, which the name has changed. It was Women Rising Together,
Oh
but that's
shoot.
the handle. Still Women
Okay.
Rising Together now on Facebook, and that is called Confident Women. And I'm in there. There's nearly 1,000 members in there, and we're hanging out all the time, and it's
Wow.
it's a great place. So
That's
I love being in
awesome.
there. Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, so again, apologies for the not having the exact name on here, but what I've got up on the screen, if they put that in the search bar, they'll be able to find the group.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
and it's the like when you type in the web address, that's the web address
Okay.
for it. Yeah. So
Okay. So they could just do facebook.com/women rising together now.
yeah, yeah,
Okay. Okay, cool. Great. Is there
yeah.
anything else you want to make sure everybody knows before we take off?
I just think it's just show up for yourself because you really, really, really deserve to have everything, and no one has the message, just your message. Only you can deliver it in your way and share your wisdom and your gifts and your knowledge in your way. And just take baby steps. Start really, really small, build up, and just do it. Just show up for yourself because it's so worth it. It's
Yeah.
so worth it.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Mm.
And thank you for being here today. This was amazing. And yeah, I think this is so powerful and so important for all of us to hear and to just acknowledge and be aware of.
Yeah, oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I've
Yeah.
loved chatting with you and it's been amazing. I'm
Yeah.
really
Thank you,
grateful.
Mala. So incredible. All right. Well,
Yeah.
thanks everybody. Enjoy the rest of the day. Or I guess if Mala is here from Australia. So if you're on her side of the globe, you're probably getting ready for bed. If you're on the U.S. side of the globe where I am, you're just starting your day. So and what an incredible way to either start or finish the day with this conversation and this kind of rolling around in your head. So thank you for that, Mala.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I hope you all have a great morning or evening wherever
Yeah.
you are. Bye.
Okay, so we've all been told that you have to DIY your first business, or it takes endless, painstaking, and frustrating hours and tons of sleepless nights to launch a business. But if you're really honest with yourself, how is that working out for you? If you want to launch an e-commerce store so profitable that you can leave your full-time job, I've got a step-by-step system that walks you through how to launch and build a store in just 5 hours. I'm still amazed at how quickly women are able to start making money using this system. So if you're interested, save your seat to the free training that I'm hosting by visiting thecompleteonlinestore.com/intro training. Save your seat. I cannot wait to see you there. And I can't wait to see you and your store in action.